Hi, it's Nell, and today's video is all about organic gardening at home. So stick around for that. So I upload videos here at YouTube on a semi-regular basis, all about gardening both indoors and outdoors. I would love to have you subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. If you're a new subscriber, thank you. And there are plenty of videos in the archives for you to peruse also. I grew up on a farm, and I was a professional gardener for 20 years, and for about 18 years I've had my own garden, so I have been practicing organic gardening for a long time, and to me it's a little bit of a vague term that gets tossed around. So what I think of organic gardening as is more gardening with nature or intuitive gardening. I want to keep my garden healthy and going strong because there's a lot of birds and bees, butterflies, creatures that visit my garden, so I want it to be safe for them and also for me. And of course, we always want to keep Mother Nature happy. A lot of the articles and videos you see on organic gardening are about organic vegetable gardening. I'm not talking about that here, although all these principles will apply to it. I'm talking about mainly gardening with ornamental plants and also container plants, because I do a lot of container gardening. So as usual, there's a blog post to go along with this video that's going to list the key points. In here, it's going to go into more detail. I think there's about 9 of them I came up with, so you can look for the link down below at the top of the description box or on my website, joyousgarden.com. So coming up in a couple weeks is the start of the Growing Succulents Indoor series. It'll be a series of short videos that'll run about 2 months, all about growing those fleshy beauties indoors. So the first thing is the soil is key. It is the foundation for the plant. If the roots are happy and healthy, then the plant is going to be happy, healthy, and strong also. Second is choosing the right plants. There are plants that do well in certain zones. They are USDA zones, different areas. So do some research and find out what plants do best in your zone. A good, reliable local garden center will be able to help you out with that. For instance, I live in the desert now, so I would not want to try growing something like hydrangeas here. It would just be crazy. So I go with plants that are much better suited to this area. Now I'm going as low water as possible because we are dry as can be. Next is to make sure that you have the right location for those plants. Some do better in sun, or some need the sun, full sun. Some need shade, so you want to make sure that you have the plant in the right location, and that's also going to keep it strong and growing just fine. Next is to make sure that you have the right location in your garden for those plants. Some take full sun, some take full shade, some take part sun. So to keep the plant as healthy as possible, you want it in the location that's best suited for that plant. Next is to plant correctly. You want the hole to be wide enough to give the roots of the plants room to grow, at least get a start until they get established and get strong. You also want to water that plant well, and you don't want to crowd your plants too much either, too close, because you want to give them room to grow and to develop. Most plants do best having air circulation. A plant that has poor air circulation is much more subject to pest outbreaks, diseases, viruses, mildew, that sort of thing. So make sure that your plants have plenty of room to grow and there is air to circulate around them. Next is to feed the soil. I like to use local compost and also worm compost. I've done that for my container plants already, like this Hoya. It builds the soil up, it aerates the soil, and it just makes it richer, which is going to make the plants stronger and more healthy. Now there are certain plants like roses and annuals that flower a lot. They flower all season long, so they need some fertilizer of some sort or as something to keep them strong and going. So this is something that I use to feed roses along with rose and flower food. I'll mix in the alfalfa meal. It's good for flowering plants. The brands that I like are Down to Earth and Dr. Earth. I don't use chemical fertilizers. And then of course there's plants like camellias and citrus, which can go deficient in certain things, and so they need fertilizers for them. But those are the only plants that in general I ever fertilized as a gardener. I just use the compost as the way to keep the plants happy. Next is to water wisely. Of course you want to water any plant when you plant it in, except for cactus and succulents and that sort of thing. I like to let them go dry a bit and then water them in, but I'm talking about the majority of plants that you are probably planting do need water to get established. Sometimes they don't need as much water. They usually don't after they age and start to grow. I have lived in New England. I've lived on the coast of California, and now I live in the Arizona desert. So how often you water, how you water depends on your climate, the type of plant, the time of year. Like I live in a very hot climate, so I would not want to water my plants at noon in July. That would just be ridiculous. It's not, that makes no sense at all. So I've got drip, or I am going to have drip, and that's a wise way to water someplace that you don't have water on the regular in the hot months. Some people tend to overwater too, so you want to watch it and kind of get that happy medium where the plant isn't too dry, but you're not giving it more water than it actually needs. So next is to get rid of as many weeds in your garden as you can, and also get rid of the weed debris because it'll just seed. This is the tool I use. If I can't just pull out the weeds, it works just fine. Now there are some herbicides that are less toxic than others, but I just tend to avoid them because I don't want any of that in my garden. So my garden in Santa Barbara, my front garden, was all Bermuda grass and weeds. So what I did is I just put layers and layers of newspaper all over the place, and then we just laid out the raised beds over that, the raised beds for all the succulents and all that, and then the gravel, the pebble patio area, that could just go on top of that, and we didn't have to spray and get that out, and it worked just fine to get rid of all that Bermuda grass and weeds, and there was hardly anything that came back up. So the next thing is I control pests naturally. What I've really had in my gardens in the past 15 years or so are aphids in the springtime, and I would just hose them off with water. A gentle blast, with the hose gets rid of the aphids, and that worked just fine. Some people have, they have different concoctions that they use, like soapy water, a mild non-toxic soap. Some people use, vinegar and water. I think cayenne pepper and soap is used sometimes too. So there's different things that you can do to control that way too. In terms of buying something, neem oil isn't too bad. That's a good way to go if you have insects in your garden. But the stronger you keep the plant and the healthier, the less chance that they will be prone to insects. So I'll move over here for the final point, because I think the ponytail palm frond was going over the lens a bit. So anyway, so this is the last thing that I could think of, but that is to prune your plants. And how you prune them depends on the plant and the season and the age and all that, but properly pruned plants will also be kept in good health too, to make the plant stronger. I've seen plants that were just severely pruned and they weren't opened up in the middle, and that can cause dieback inside. It can also cause insect infestation. So a properly pruned plant is also another way to keep your plants healthy and strong. So those are my thoughts on organic gardening. I've been gardening for a very long time, and as I said, it's just gardening with nature, not trying to fight nature, keeping your garden healthy and strong. And the best thing you can do is to start with good soil. And as I said, there will be more information in the blog post all about these points. So I hope you have found this video to be helpful. I have a lot more videos coming your way, all about gardening, both indoors and outdoors, so stay tuned for those. I thank you for all your likes and your subscribes. I really appreciate them. Now let's get out in our gardens and make our worlds a more beautiful place. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!